Hi, I'm Lisa Prather, and welcome to The Voice of Health with our host, Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, where lives are changed every day through the natural approach to healthcare. Last week, our show topic was stress. Who needs it? And we talked about how the Prather Practice is able to treat stress effectively with chiropractic and acupuncture. This week, we want to talk about how counseling can help those dealing with stress. And later, we'll be joined by Art Adams, who provides our counseling services at the Prather Practice. And I want you to explain, Dr. Prather, in our practice, why did we integrating art and art skills and counseling, and how we're going to do that?
Well, you know, everyone has different aspects, especially if you're sick. Mm-hmm. You know, if you have an illness going on, that can be very emotionally devastating. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, the emotions and some of the things that happen to us can actually lead to some of the health conditions that people experience. We are more than just our spine. Mm-hmm. We are more than just our physiology, but also how we think has a huge effect on each one of those different aspects. And those things then also have an effect on our thinking. Mm-hmm. So incorporating the whole aspect of counseling into the office is just a very natural outgrowth in us becoming an integrated and a total holistic type of a practice. Mm-hmm. So this was something that I, in my original thoughts 30 years ago of getting into my practice, having this aspect was a very important part of it. Mm-hmm. And we are now doing it.
Right. We were waiting for the right person.
We were waiting for the right person, and I think we found him, and we're very excited about getting this going. So I encourage everyone who has different types of aspects that they need to have that type of counseling for. That's something that I encourage them to do.
Dr. Prather, last week you said 100% of your patients need treatment for stress. How important is counseling in that treatment plan?
Absolutely critical. You know, as you're dealing with stress, having strategies, just the aspect of being able to talk about what's going on has a huge physiological change in what's in your physiology. So understanding the role of counseling in handling stress and understanding how stress affects your body is so important, and oftentimes people aren't even aware that it's stress that's causing, the underlying problem with their digestive issues, with their headaches, with their blurred vision, even with their weight gain. Getting to that underlying root and what is it those stressors that are occurring is important to identify, because prevention is a lot better than treatment. And if you can understand the underlying causes, some of the patterns that we have, and changing those patterns will definitely cut down on one's stress.
And I know we've added counseling into our practice, and we have Art Adams here. And Dr. Prather, why did you add the counseling piece?
Well, that was something that I've been planning for ever since I started my practice, that eventually counseling would become an important part, because we are a holistic practice. And if you don't understand the emotional aspect, if you don't understand the patterns that we have, then you can't really get to the complete healing of the patient. So it's something that I always knew was necessary, was looking forward to the right person coming in at the right time, and we're excited about having Art Adams here to do that.
We are.
You know, there's a very direct correlation that has been found between our body and our body tension and the way that we think. You know, there's just such a strong correlation along those lines, and finding out what those markers are. I mean, oftentimes we can get a release in the physical body, and it creates some emotional tension. The emotional tension will cause tension within the body. So getting down to that root, and we have so many different types of layers that can start to accumulate. And we see the evidence of the issues in people's body that creates disease in them. But oftentimes the underlying problem can be an emotional issue, past experiences, past habits and coping mechanisms that we can have. We see oftentimes that that people have an injury and their whole body has kind of shifted to compensate for that injury. Mm-hmm. Same thing on an emotional type of level. People have had injuries and they've had compensations. And getting through those compensations to get to the injury is an ongoing type of process that a skilled counselor has to be able to find out, just like we do that on a physical level. And the physical and the emotional are very, very connected. As you can approach it from both angles, mm-hmm. I think we're going to get a far, far better results than we could separate.
Yeah, and I know we already are. Mm-hmm. It's exciting to see. And Dr. Prather, you're evaluating people that come in for the structure function. When is it that you refer, over to Art for counseling?
Well, to be honest with you, everybody needs counseling. Because we all have different types of situations, but it becomes imperative. First off, if I ever see someone in a what we almost consider the reptilian brain, mm-hmm. where the body just kind of shuts down, and once someone's kind of is at that point, that's an emergency. Mm-hmm. If people are stuck in the fight-flight mechanism, that's something that needs to be done soon. But when people are just like a deer in a headlight, they can't move, they can't think, they can't operate, they can't go forward, they can't go backwards, that's an emergency type of situation. And people need counseling at that point immediately. Mm-hmm. So we get those people over. If people are stuck in the fight-flight, we try to get them over as soon as possible. But everybody needs life coaching. Mm-hmm. There isn't anyone that can't benefit from that. Mm-hmm. But there are times where we say, hey, this is something that we've got to do, and we've got to do now, because it actually becomes even life-threatening. Mm-hmm. So we are very excited about having this in here, and things are going very well.
Yes. Up next, we'll be joined by Art Adams, who provides the counseling services here at the Prather Practice. You can win a free 60-minute massage in a relaxing spa at the Prather Practice. Each month, we have a drawing to give away a free massage to one of our lucky Facebook and Twitter fans. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. This is The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather. The Voice of Health Wellness Tip with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice.
One of the most basic fundamentals that I base my practice off of is something called the Atlas orthogonal technique.
It's the type of adjustment?
It's a specific type of an adjustment, and orthogonal means at right angles. In other words, the head is sitting on top of your body.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. Because about 80% of the people don't have that. Mm-hmm. And it has probably one of the greatest effects on the entire system.
You're saying 80% of people don't have the
atlas sitting on underneath the skull.
Now, the atlas
properly.
We're talking about is the first vertebrae.
First vertebrae under the occiput. So a basic type of thing, and what I found is that probably has the biggest effect on the health of an individual over anything else. Mm-hmm. So you can actually make the greatest amount of changes with the atlas, getting it in the right position, because it's right there at the base of the skull, which is the center of the autonomic nervous system.
The base of the skull.
Which actually controls all the functions of the body. So the Atlas orthogonal is one of the big bases of what we do, and has the biggest effect on the health of the individual. And really, to make any types of changes in the rest of the system to help the body to work correctly, that's the beginning of where you need to start. And when I'm actually working with patients, I make sure that that's in position. Now, of course, 20% of the people don't have a problem with that. So we go on to
So not everybody that walks in the office has that issue.
And not everybody who walks into the office has that issue. But getting that corrected is absolutely essential for me to make the other postural changes and to make the changes in the system.
And I want to bring up here, you're board certified in the Atlas orthogonal technique, the only one in the state of Indiana. Got your training down in Atlanta. Right. So extensive training.
I was one of the original 6. in that. So that's a huge basis. So there's a very strong belief system in that. And then also, I had my greatest amount of changes in my health through this particular type of adjustment. So I can speak from a personal type of standpoint.
Find out how the Atlas Orthogonal Chiropractic Adjustment can transform your health. Schedule your appointment at the Prather Practice, 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. Or learn more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. The Prather Practice, restoring hope.
I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. So good. So good.
You're listening to The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, the most comprehensive wellness center in the Midwest. We're in part 2 of a 2-week series on stress. Who needs it? This week, we focus on the role of counseling in treating stress, and we're joined by Art Adams, who provides the counseling services here at the Prather Practice. But Art, before we go on, can you tell the listeners about your background and credentials?
It's so powerful to have help, so that we don't have to go through some of our issues in life alone. My background, I started out in my career as a pastor, and ultimately became a senior pastor, and served in that capacity for about 17 years. And at some point, I realized that I needed a little extra information in order to be able to help people with stress management issues and addiction issues. So I went back to school and ultimately ended up with the credentials I have now. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a licensed clinical addictions counselor. I'm a level 4 KDAC, which basically means I supervise people who are getting into the addiction fields. I also have international certification in addictions, as well as a couple of other certifications that have to do with parenting and child evaluation. So
there's a lot of initials after your name.
My wall is full.
You're a busy man. You even told me after this you're heading to an all-day workshop.
Yes.
It sounded very interesting.
Yes, on violence. And in my spare time, Lisa, I am a crisis responder.
In your spare time.
Yes. I've responded among the first group on the ground at Hurricane Katrina. Also, the floods have taken place over various times in Indiana. I've been a first responder with that team through the state of Indiana.
Yeah. So later on I might ask you, what do you do for your stress level? And
I come to Prather Practice.
Oh. So why are you joining the team here at the Prather Practice?
I am very picky as to who I affiliate with. And basically, I was, long story, I was heading down to southern Indiana to work with some ladies at Madison Correctional Unit over a period of about a year, and tuned in and heard this man and woman talking my story. And the more I listened to this particular program, the more I realized that there's a match here, and so I came in actually as a client or patient to follow up on some of my own issues. But I chose this, and hopefully you chose me for this, basically because of the match of our philosophy. We believe in a holistic approach, that we're not compartmentalized people. So we take the whole person and try to live life in balance. And so often we get out of balance, either physically, spiritually, or our mind just gets overloaded, unbalanced.
Yeah, you have added such a piece that was missing here at the Prather Practice, that we're just waiting for the right person to fill it. And so we're real excited for you to be a part of the team. We know it's a need. We know the patients have asked for it. So we're real excited to have you also, Art, as part of our team. And Art, how does counseling overlay with our structure function model here at the Prather Practice?
The way this overlays, as Dr. Prather has said, is that we use a holistic approach. And just like the structural function looks at core issues going on with the physiological aspects of it, the mental health aspect looks at how the human being has basically left the core of being a human being and has become a human doing. So that people are defining themselves now in terms of what they do or what they did, past, present, or what they plan to do, and that doing part has caused the being to be lost or undervalued in some way. What counseling does is seeks to get past those barriers of the doings and get down to who are you really. What are your values? What are the things that you want to do? Not how your environment has acted on you or you've acted on your environment, but who are you at core, which gets into the arenas not only of the physical, but also the emotional, the spiritual, the social, as well as the mental. And that doing gets in people's way. When we talk with people, we say, we introduce ourselves, here's who I am, and who I am, which gets to being, but we address it in terms of what we do. That's especially true with men and women as well. But men will tell you what their job is, what accolades they need. Women will often do the same, but they may do that in terms of family or social status or children, or not to sound biased one way or the other, but just the way we're socialized, we answer in terms of doing. But structural function and counseling get at the core of who we are. If we reset the core, identify who we are, then we're going to be able to build from there. Of course, tearing through the layers to get back to being is what counseling is about.
So, Art, when a patient comes to you feeling overwhelmed with stress in their life, what is your approach in helping patients to deal with that stress?
The very first thing that I do is I find out, or I try to establish rapport with them, where we have a setting where it is comfortable for the person who comes to us to open up. Without being able to open up, we're not going to be able to get at what we need to get to. So we seek to establish rapport, but then we want to look at kind of what's the Band-Aid we need to do for today. So what is the presenting issue? Why are you here today? And we kind of start there. In further sessions, what we do is kind of peel the onion. We go back and we address other psychosocial kinds of issues, and the biopsychosocial, biological I don't do so much as the others here. But we try to peel that onion back in the follow-up sessions as to what are the life stressors, what are the barriers to you being a whole person. And that sometimes takes several sessions, because we have years and years of basically focused on what we do.
And I think what I like about what you do, Art, too, is you apply things. So much of counseling can just be rehashing or talking, but it seems like you help people to move forward or have a plan. Talk more about that.
Very likely, the answer to our problems is already within us. People know kind of at a prime level what they need. They just don't know how to get there. And so, in the role of counseling, we serve more as coaches or tour guides for the individual to find what will work for them, what will help them to line up to where they can actually live their life in balance. Just like with the structural function, we put the body in balance. in counseling, we put the mind in balance to where we can operate and be achieve happiness and satisfaction in life. I think, Lisa and Doc, in the counseling arena, if we use addictions as an example, many times the daily issues or ongoing issues of life, we have eroded into a particular lifestyle that's built around a problem, and we, being humans, we tend to adapt to numerous situations, sometimes very unhealthy situations. In the addicted family, we see that the addicted family has gravitated or has built their life around the addicted person. So we end up with things like codependency, like being focused on that person almost incessantly, asking what do we do to fix this individual. We beg, we cajole, we plead, we do all the things, and still we often don't find satisfaction not being able to fix it. But what we do in that process, we lose ourselves. And that's where we have to kind of back up and kind of divide the turf as to what's on my side of the street that I need to work on, and what's on the other person's side of the street that's not mine to work on and really never has been. We take too much on ourselves.
And so, if someone's listening and, how would a person know if they need the counseling service, if they've gotten to a point with stress levels? How do we help them discern that?
Okay. Very first answer is, if you don't know what to do, call us. We can help you with what to do. So the first indicator is, if you don't know what to do, then what you do is you pick up the phone and call the Prather Wellness Center. The next thing that we would look at is what areas are causing me not to be able to sleep at night. What's going through my head when I am riding along and kind of free thinking? What are the things that just kind of come up here and kind of grab me? We don't know what to do about them. It may be something going on in the family, maybe children, maybe a spouse, or it may be some extended family issue, and we do family counseling. It may be that a person has something going on with them that maybe something we run into in individuals that never have let go of a romance way early in their life, and they're still kind of in love with the memory of what's behind them. Other times we are trying to cope with living with disease or living with some other kind of dysfunction, and when those things start coming to our mind and we don't have a plan, then that's when you call us. What I would say is that no plan of what you're going to do moving forward is a plan to fail. So the opportunity you have is to pick up the phone, give us a call, and you're going to give us that number, I know, and give us a call, and we can help you to get a plan that gets you out of this stuckness. There are many people who respond to life, actually 3 primal responses, the fight or the flight. Most folks have heard of that. But there's another one, and that one is freeze. And many people in their life are just like the deer in the headlight. They're staring. They don't know what to do next. That's when you call us.
Yeah, and that number, I'll give it out right now, is 317-848-8048. Again, 317-848-8048.
Let me add to that sometimes there is situational trauma. Someone's having some kind of an adjustment they have to make to life, maybe a job stressor, or it could be anything. And those situational things would call for brief therapy, which is usually 2 to 3 sessions, to kind of get to and come up with a solution and be sure we have some sustainability there. Other things, though, are more long-term traumatic events, usually brought on by a history of not coping with the problem as the problem came up, or a problem that's just so big that it really needs more long-term kinds of approaches. So we have both. So just because a person goes into counseling doesn't mean they're lifelong come see us.
Right, it can be short-term.
Some things are short-term and some are longer-term.
Okay. Up next, we'll talk more with Art Adams about how stress can become a lifestyle and how anxiousness can even be a learned behavior. Listen to the Voice of Health Radio on your smartphone or tablet on all of the top radio apps available. TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. You can find these apps and more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. This is The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather. Laughter is the best medicine.
That little bit of arrogance in the medical community, I think we could all live without. Like when you go to see the doctor, you don't see the actual doctor first. You must wait in the waiting room. There's no chance of not waiting. That's the name of the room. The doctors are all back there. Oh, we can't take them now. We've already got this room. And you sit there, you pretend you're reading your little magazine. You're actually looking at the other people. I wonder what he's got. That guy's a goner.
Are you frustrated by not getting to the root cause of your health issue? Are you tired of not knowing why you're always fatigued? Are you wanting to say no to toxic drugs? Have you lost hope? Are you just tired of being sick and tired? At the Prather Practice, we want you to know that we have the answers for you. We offer the alternative to the disease care model. We are the drug-free model to health and wellness. At the Prather Practice, we look for the underlying cause of your health problem and not just the symptomatology. Through thorough diagnostics, we find your individual health blueprint for your treatment. Where the disease care model is symptom-based, the structure-function model we practice gets to the root of your health issue. The Prather Practice is the most comprehensive wellness center in the Midwest. Our integrated practice offers you the most treatment options to restore your health and your hope. Learn more about the Prather Practice by calling 317-848-8048 or learn more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com.
Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you. No pill's gonna kill my head.
I'm Lisa Prather, and you're listening to The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, where we get to the root cause of your health issue. We're in part 2 of a 2-week series on stress. Who needs it? This week, we focus on the role of counseling in treating stress, and we're joined by Art Adams, who provides the counseling services here at the Prather Practice. Sometimes stress can even become a lifestyle. And Art, tell us a little bit, how does lifestyle develop? What are the processes?
As human beings, we are social beings, and we learn by imitation. Mostly. Mm-hmm. There are some things have to do with temperament and genetic predispositions and those kinds of things. But by and large, we learn a lot from the people that we're around. Those first 2 or 3 very formative years, we see that probably at a greater extent than other times in life. When a child is learning like the social norms of the family, the language, how the world doesn't revolve around them, and there's times that they're told no, and they have to take a park, and they may not like that, or most of the time we like them, and sometimes have to turn and smile because some of them are very cute. But lifestyle develops basically as creatures of imitation. We're introduced to different things in life. There's a part of our brain in our midbrain. Actually, you can't even point to it, but if you take your both index fingers and bring them together, one on top of your head and one on about your chin, where those would intersect inside your head is where a thing called your amygdala is. Mm-hmm. The amygdala basically collects every behavior that you have ever done. And over time, what we do is we store those behaviors. Now, the amygdala has no conscience. All it says is, I know how to do this because I've done it before. Now, when we start pairing that with stimulus on the outside, whatever that might be, so someone speaks to us, we know that we're supposed to respond. There's certain automatic responses that we develop over time. Many of those are excellent. And that's how we fit in with the culture in which we live. But some of those are not so good. And what we can do is we can have, I tell people they have an ant problem, automatic negative thoughts. And those automatic negative thoughts can be the I can'ts. These are the things that we have been scripted to believe over time, such things as I'm fat, I'm not athletic, I'm a loser, I can't, whatever. There's a lot of negative things that we're told over time. And unfortunately, as we embrace those, they begin to form who we are, and a lifestyle kind of develops around that. Sometimes these traits, often they develop through an addictive family. So when we talk about recovery, we don't just talk about the individual. We talk also about the systems around them.
Can stress and anxiousness actually become a learned behavior?
If we are reared around someone who is a very anxious person, we can pick up the secondary traits. We learn how to be anxious. If we are in a family that's very depressed, or our caretakers, or those that we look to as our hero models, and those are kind of depressed, or people who are maybe more lethargic, we pick up those patterns, and we learn to think that way. Now, one of the things that I tell people is what the mind dwells on, the body will act on. So when I'm telling myself whatever the limits might be, or barriers, or whatever I'm telling myself, then I'm going to act on that. What the mind dwells on, the body will act on. If I believe I am limited, then I am limited, whether I really am or not. But the limits may be because I've self-imposed those. Maybe that gets a little too deep.
No.
But what we have is that old amygdala, to go back there. We have stored behaviors, and the body knows how to respond. Sometimes we don't know how to respond because we're introduced to some new thing. I asked a group one time, what is a crisis? And one of the people defined it in such a clear way, and they said a crisis is when the adults don't know what to do. And I thought, well, that just kind of captures it, that there's times we're like the deer in the headlight. We don't have a clue what we need to do. But hopefully we know that there is help out there. But here's what happens when we don't know what to do, and we don't get the help we need. We make up something to do. So, for instance, I'm in a tizzy. We've had some kind of a conflict of some sort, and I've got all this nervous energy. I don't know what to do. I think I'll go eat a bag of Doritos, or I'll sit on the couch, and here comes the food. So we use sometimes food as a placebo, but we really don't address the issue. So we may still feel very empty inside because we're dealing with a situation, but dealing with it in a way that is not particularly healthy. So, and that's where obsessions and compulsions come in. Even such things as some people, in terms of the sexual addictions, they will act out sexually to find that release from the stress, the boredom, the anger, and so the sexual experience becomes a diversion, and over time, whatever we have chosen actually helps to rewire the way we think, to rewire the brain, if you would, because the chemicals that we've released, the brain is used to think in a certain way. And the more we think, the more it's kind of like erosion. That if we were to take water and pour down a hill, and we were to do that enough, water is going to find its course. But over time, it will create a deeper path. In our minds, in our heads, with our neurotransmitters, that's what we do. So it becomes very natural to think in a certain way. So a person thinks, well, I'm limited. I can't use my shoulder because I was told. We learn to think in that particular way. So we put these limits on ourselves, and And over time, we come to believe that. With some of my clients, what I will do is I will hold on to my ears and pull them out, reshape
like
them.
Dumbo?
And I'll say, these aren't trash can lids. And it's very true. That we need to guard what goes in, because it ultimately affects who we are, how we think, and we store memories.
Yeah.
Part of lifestyle is developed because we have not finished business that we needed to have finished. And that business kind of, if you would, haunts us, stays in the back of our mind. Or perhaps as we tell a story of something happened perhaps years ago, we can tell that with all the feeling as if it just happened. That's good with some things. But it's very bad if or negative, sends out all kinds of negative waves if we really haven't worked through that. Part of what my profession brings to the table is let's get past the unfinished business. If we need to talk it through, whether it's a trauma, and people have had some really bad things happen to them, but those bad things don't have to define them.
Right.
What we need to do is to work through those, and I do that with exposure therapy and with different ways: cognitive behavioral, rational emotive behavior therapy, and essentially, what I look at is let's deal with the feeling, and then see how those feelings affect the way you're behaving. And the behavior is going to affect the way you think. So we get in a kind of a revolving door if we're not careful, because we have feelings that we need to dig down, probe as to what's really going on there, and talk those things through.
And sometimes that can be painful, and we don't like to feel pain, correct?
That's true. That's true. One of my professors told me, Art, because as you go through all this psychology and different things in school, it awakens feelings in the person that's getting the education. One of my professors told me, Art, there is no growth without pain. I was sitting there saying, I thought I was way past all this stuff, and this is just waking stuff up in me. And her statement was, there is no growth without pain. And I kind of learned that a little from you too, Lisa, because some of the times that you kept saying, now if this hurts, we don't want to hurt you. But sometimes there's a little pain that has to happen in the process of getting over the hump, getting past the thing that needs to happen, so that we have our range of motion. Basically, we have our life back. And pain can be a good thing.
Yeah. And I want to let our listeners know Art is available on Wednesdays into the evening, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 10 to 4. Up next, in our Restoring Hope segment, you'll hear from a patient here at the Prather Practice sharing her success story. Never miss an episode of The Voice of Health so that you can stay informed and empowered about your health. Get a podcast of our show automatically delivered to you every week by signing up for our show on iTunes. You can find that link on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. And don't forget, thevoiceofhealthradio.com has complete archives of all of our past episodes with an audio library of information to help you add more life to your years and more years to your life. This is The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather. The Voice of Health Wellness Tip with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice.
I consider the blood work to be the blueprint to your health, and we've had several different radio programs on that and talked about how important it is to have at least a yearly complete blood test to find out where you are. The blood is the life force of the body. And it gives an amazing chemical picture of where you are with your health, and can actually pick up all the different types of diseases that could be going on. So having a thorough blood test is one of the most important things, and is recommended by everyone to make sure that your health is up to where it should be, and can actually pick up any type of disease process before it becomes a major factor. So having a good blood test, a good thorough blood test, is one of the most important things that you can possibly have. One of the things that I implemented when I started my practice was a blood test that could actually cover any type of problem that was actually developed, that someone could actually experience. So we came up with a profile, we gave it to the labs, but they said, wow, that's a pretty good profile. Do you mind if we offer that to other people? And I said, no, that would be fine, because I feel that that's something that could be very useful. And they named it the Prather profile. So I've actually met with other doctors before and talked to them and said, "You're Dr. Prather. Are you the Prather of the Prather profile?" And I said, yeah, because, they get a list of different profiles. And so it's actually now a national profile. So we actually have 52 different lab tests that are actually included in this profile. It covers everything from A to Z. In other words, any disease process that you could possibly have in your body, that will be covered by this particular blood test. So it is something that should be done by everyone, from no matter how young you are to no matter how old you are, at least once a year, to see what your health is. If you have a problem, this will actually pick it up. And one of the nice things about that is it is actually covered by insurance. So very excellent way of actually finding out where you are, and if there are any hidden types of problems that are going on, this will actually show it up.
Schedule your appointment at the Prather Practice, 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. Or learn more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. The Prather Practice, restoring hope. You're listening to The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice, where our mission is restoring hope to our patients. Well, I have Lindsay here, who has been coming to the Prather Practice for how long?
15 years.
15 years. You said you were in college at the time.
Was, yes.
Well, I know you want to tell your story, and what brought you in, first of all, 15 years ago?
My mom, actually, she started as a patient here, and she was so enthusiastic and excited about it that she made sure that everyone she knew came in, and I was on that list.
That's good. She's taking care of her kids.
Yes.
And what brought you into the Prather Practice at the beginning?
Just she wanted to get me checked out. I didn't have any major complaints as, a 18-year-old, but But I came in and my eyes were opened at all the things that were offered here, and it was more than I knew about health at that point. So
it was more preventative wellness at that point.
Yes.
I see.
But since then, I've come in for a lot of different issues. Like last year, I had a knee problem, and a year later, I have no issues whatsoever. I'm completely better. And Dr. Prather, totally fixed that problem for me, which was a major issue because I had young children and I had trouble getting around and taking care of them with my knee.
Right.
And I haven't had any problems for a while now. Yes.
Now, what other services do you receive here, or have you in the last 15 years?
Well, one thing I use often is the EDS. And because when me or my husband or my children get sick, the doctor really can't do much if you have a virus. But when you come here and get the EDS, you can pinpoint the problem and get, supplements that you feel good about giving to your kids, and you're confident in what you're giving them and treating what's going on with them, because when you're going through it, it's stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, and you have 2 small children.
Yes.
So you've brought them in
yes.
also, just like your mom brought you in.
Absolutely,
That's
yes.
neat. That's neat. And you talked about the EDS, and for our listeners out there, that's the electrodermal screening. And you usually get the diagnostics with that, blood work.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it really helps us figure out exactly what's going on, where you don't get that anywhere else, really.
Yeah, it's a nice preventative. Is that something you do on an annual basis?
Yeah. Probably more than annual. Whenever something comes up or, I feel like something's going on with them, then I'll make sure to bring them in.
Now, has your husband been treated here too?
He has. He's been helped a lot he's had neck issues to the point where, he can't even put his shoes on. Oh. And so we've come in here and, he hasn't had neck issues for years.
Wow.
But, when he does, this is the first place we go and we know where to get help. Yeah. That's
great. And I like the fact you were talking about if your children or you come down with something, you think of coming in here first and like the natural supplementation.
Absolutely. That would be my first pick every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're not dealing with side effects. Your children aren't dealing with certain side effects.
Right. What you're giving them is pure and natural, and it's not going to have any harmful, like you give them their rounds of their...
like antibiotics,
yes. Yeah. And that's going to take something out of them or lower their immunity. And when you come in here and the things that you guys have here, none of that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That's neat. Yeah, the homeopathics are so helpful, and don't harm. And your kids were okay with taking them?
Oh, they love them. Especially the elderberry syrup.
Elderberry syrup.
It's very easy, and they think it's so cool to take supplements. They ask for it.
That's great.
Yes.
So you probably have in your medicine cabinet like elderberry syrup and...
Absolutely.
Do you have the spongitis, the cough?
We do.
Yeah.
At all times.
That's neat. So I know recently you've been in for our Healthy Habits weight loss program.
Yes.
Do you want to share with our listeners a little bit about that experience?
I am so thrilled about that. I had tried for 8 or 9 months to lose weight, and I got nowhere. I tried eating right, I tried working out and, being active, and nothing was working for me. And coming in here and getting the blood work and then going through the program, I've lost 17 pounds.
In how long?
In 21 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I feel great. I'm exactly where I want to be. And it's really, I feel so much better.
Yeah, and there was a certain amount. Your goal was to lose, 15 pounds? You wanted to be at a certain weight, correct?
Yes, right.
Yeah, and we did the HCG injections with you.
Right.
With the lower calorie. And how did that go?
It really wasn't hard. I mean, you get into the habit, and it creates a healthy habit by the end of it to where you
It's called Healthy Habits.
You can't go back to the way you were eating and living before, because it's like your stomach and your brain learn to communicate with each other again by going through this, and that's been great because I know that I'll be able to continue, and I won't gain it all back because I know what it feels like to be full again. And I know I can stop myself from, eating whatever's on my plate or eating all of it.
Yeah, and it does work the brain. That's, how it works. And if you can, your brain gets used to being a certain way.
Yes.
Some people feel stuck, but they don't need to feel stuck.
Yes.
And now there's 3 phases. You're in phase 3.
Yes.
How's that going?
Good. It's going great. I'm on the last 3 days after I'm done with the HCG. And then I start, and I've already made my meal plans, and I'm excited to, have some new food in there. So yeah, it's gone really well, and it's doable. It's very doable for anybody that wants to do it.
Yeah. Tell the listeners about that smoothie you...
Okay, my favorite recipes from going through this is instead of eating the fruit that you can have, I would throw a handful of strawberries or half an orange into the blender with some ice and some water and some vanilla stevia. Vanilla stevia was amazing.
Yeah.
I put it in almost
everything. And you can use stevia on the diet.
Yes. And you put it in the blender and you blend it up, and it's like a strawberry smoothie or an orange smoothie, and I really look forward to those every single day.
That was the highlight, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's like having a dessert.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's someone listening out there that really wants to get healthy or wants to lose weight, what would you say to them?
If you're having trouble doing it on your own, like I was, then if you follow this program and you come in and you get evaluated, it works. It takes all the hard work out of it and all the frustration, because you just follow what's laid out for you and the weight will come off.
Yeah. And what's nice now that you're in phase 3, we're dealing with portion control, healthy lifestyle, so we don't just stop at HCG.
Yes.
You continue for 6 weeks after that, more the healthy lifestyle.
Definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
'cause
And it resets your thoughts to where you don't crave the stuff that you craved before you started this.
Yeah.
You don't want to go out and buy a candy bar, and you celebrate the little things like a piece of avocado, or, something like that, instead of worse choices that you could make.
What's the major change you've noticed?
Well, I've noticed really like the clothes size has really changed.
Did you have to go buy new clothes, or
not
did
all
you
new
have
clothes? I had some that I put away in a box because I'd hoped that I would get down to that size I was before I had kids, and I got there, and so I got to open the box up that I kept and put them all back in my closet, and that was really exciting for me.
That is exciting.
I knew that I didn't hang on to those for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks, Lindsay, for your story. It'll be very helpful. I know people that are listening out there, and very encouraging.
Good.
Thank
Hope so.
you.
You're welcome.
The Prather Practice is located at 8902 North Meridian Street on the north side of Indianapolis, just south of the I-465 loop. If we can help you to achieve better health, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with our office at 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. Join us again here next week or anytime on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com for The Voice of Health with Dr. Robert Prather. Healthy Habits from the Prather Practice is a natural weight loss program with a proven success rate. Healthy Habits is an individualized program that is tailored to each patient's needs. Healthy Habits is not a trendy diet. The program actually resets your body's metabolism for optimal fat burning. The Healthy Habits program includes concentrated vitamins and minerals that help you to burn fat and feel more energetic. Healthy Habits provides support from a counselor and exercise physiologist in order to maximize your results and help you create new healthy habits in your life. This program even helped our own Dr. Prather to lose 24 pounds and shed 4 inches from his waist in just 12 days. Schedule your consultation with a Healthy Habits counselor at the Prather Practice at 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048, or on the web at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. The Prather Practice, restoring hope. The Voice of Health Wellness Tip with Dr. Robert Prather of the Prather Practice. Dr. Prather, you talk a lot about structure function care and disease care. What is the difference between the two?
When you're talking about disease care, you're usually talking about an interference in the body's normal mechanisms. There is a time for that. When the body is actually in a process of free fall, is a good way to kind of put it, where the body is no longer making sense of what it's doing. And we're on a pattern that it will actually crash. Then you need some interference. And the best way to actually do that is through pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are classified as poisons. They actually take the body further away from homeostasis, which I'll define here in a second. Mm-hmm. But at those times, that is actually necessary. So when the body is in a crisis and is no longer able to heal itself, that's when disease care is actually critical. That's where you actually utilize the pharmaceuticals and the surgical methods. What we're usually involved with is in structure function, and as opposed to a disease care, it's health care. Everything that you use in a structure function standpoint is something to bring the body back into homeostasis, which is balance.
Okay.
Dr. Guyton talked about homeostasis as the definition of health. If the body can maintain homeostasis, where it's in a perfect balance with all the different types of things that are coming in that are interfering with its function, that is the perfect state of health. And that's based on a balance of the physiology, functional, and upon the structure portion of the structure function.
Well, you talk about the body as the hero. What do you mean by that?
Body has a self-healing mechanism to it that can just make all sorts of corrections if we can just get out of its way. The whole idea behind healthcare is to provide the impetus, the needs, and the basis of what it will take to actually get the body well. So finding out where it's off, doing the proper diagnostics, and then making the proper type of adjustments into the care will actually result in the healing and the position that the body should actually be in.
Well, find out how structure function care can impact your life. Schedule your appointment at the Prather Practice, 317-848-8048. That's 317-848-8048. Or learn more on our website at thevoiceofhealthradio.com. The Prather Practice, restoring hope.